There's a shelf in my living room that mocks me every single day. It holds three specific books: The Psychology of Money, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Total cost? About $60. Total pages read? Zero. For 3 years, they've just sat there gathering dust, acting like these silent trophies of a version of me that doesn't exist yet. Every time I walk past them, I feel this specific, heavy knot in my stomach. It's not just guilt about the money I wasted buying them, it's the shame of avoiding the knowledge inside them. I felt like if I opened them, I'd just be reminded of how much I don't know. This is my real-time journey, not expert advice. Here is exactly what happened. I call this intellectual debt. It feels exactly like credit card debt to me. You know it's there, you know you need to address it, but you just keep ignoring it because the reality feels too overwhelming. I've built this narrative in my head that finance books are dry, boring, and full of words I won't understand. I convinced myself that I'm just not a numbers person. That was me until this morning. I woke up feeling anxious about my bank account again. Nothing new there. But instead of doom scrolling on my phone to numb out, I looked at that dusty shelf. I realized I was paralyzed by the idea of becoming an expert. I thought I had to read all the books and understand all the strategies to even start. It was the same perfectionism that usually messes up my budget. If I can't do it perfectly, I don't do it at all. I decided to try something different. I wasn't going to study finance. I wasn't going to take notes or highlight anything. I just wanted to see if I could read one single chapter without falling asleep or feeling stupid. I grabbed the book on the far left, mostly because it was the thinnest one, and blew the actual dust off the cover. It sounds dramatic, but sitting down on the couch with that book felt like walking into a gym for the first time in years. I was terrified of looking like I didn't belong, even though I was sitting alone in my own living room. So I opened the book. I literally set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes. That was the deal I made with myself. You only have to survive 15 minutes of this, and then you can go back to watching funny cat videos. I started reading chapter 1. And honestly, the first 2 minutes were rough. My brain kept trying to jump ship. I was reading the words, but I wasn't absorbing them. I found myself rereading the same paragraph 3 times because I was so distracted by the thought, I'm probably not going to understand the next part. It was that imposter syndrome kicking in hard. I kept waiting for a formula to show up. I kept waiting for some complex chart about compound interest rates that would make my eyes glaze over. But then, around minute 4, something weird happened. The author wasn't talking about math. He was telling a story. He was talking about how people make decisions with money based on emotions, not spreadsheets. I stopped pausing to check the timer. I actually leaned forward. The concept in the chapter was basically about how no one is crazy. We all make money decisions based on our own unique experiences, fear, and pride. I read a line that basically said we do things with money to make sense of the world, not just to maximize returns. And it clicked. Just like that. I put the book down on my lap and just stared at the wall for a second. I didn't feel confused. I didn't feel stupid. I felt seen. For the first time, I realized that my bad financial habits weren't just because I was broken or bad at math. They were emotional responses. I understood the concept immediately. I didn't need a calculator. I didn't need a degree. I just needed to be a human being. Let's look at the data of this micro win, because we always track the numbers here. Cost of investment, $0, since the book was already collecting dust on. My shelf? Time invested, 15 minutes. Return on investment, massive. I looked at my phone. The timer had gone off 2 minutes ago, and I hadn't even heard it. I had spent weeks, maybe months, building up this wall of fear, thinking that financial literacy was this giant mountain I had to climb all at once. But in reality, it was just a series of small hills. I realized I spend more time scrolling through Instagram in the morning, looking at people who are richer than me, than it took to actually learn something that could help me become wealthy myself. That hit me hard. I looked at the page count. I had read 12 pages. That's it. 12 pages out of 250. If you look at the progress bar of my financial knowledge, it barely moved. It's like paying $5 off a $10,000 debt. Visually, you can barely see the difference. But emotionally, the difference is everything. I broke the seal. I proved to myself that the information isn't above me. I think the biggest lie I told myself was that I had to finish the book to get value from it. I thought it was all or nothing. But reading one chapter gave me one new tool. Even if I don't read chapter 2 for another week, I'm still 1% smarter about my money today than I was yesterday. I'm walking around the house feeling a little lighter. I didn't fix my bank account in 15 minutes, but I fixed my attitude towards it. And honestly, looking at the history of my bad decisions, the attitude was always the problem, not the math. This brings me back to the core philosophy of this channel: atomic finance. I've realized that building financial intelligence is exactly the same as paying off debt. When I look at my debt numbers, I don't try to pay off the whole $50,000 in one afternoon, because that's impossible. I chip away at it. But with learning, I was trying to pay off my ignorance debt all at once. I was trying to binge read my way to being smart, which just led to burnout before I even started. The lesson I'm taking into next week is the concept of the knowledge compound. James Clear talks about 1% improvements compounding over time. I realized today that if I read just 10 pages a day, that's 3,750 pages a year. That's about 15 books. I don't need to be a financial genius by Friday. I just need to be a little less confused than I was on Monday. My system going forward is simple. I'm leaving the book on the coffee table, not the shelf. The shelf is a graveyard. The coffee table is an invitation. My goal isn't finish the book. My goal is just don't be afraid to open it. I'm shifting my identity. I'm no longer someone who is bad with money. I am someone who is learning about money. It's a small shift, but it changes how I feel when I look at that book cover. It's not an enemy anymore. It's just a tool. And today, I use the tool. My 1% mission for tomorrow is simple. I'm going to read just 5 pages. That's it. It will take me maybe 10 minutes. I'm not asking for a revolution, just a routine. What is your 1% step for your brain? Will you read one article? Listen to 5 minutes of a podcast? Let's share our small learning wins in the comments below. I am not a financial expert or advisor. This content is for documenting my personal journey and for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research before making any financial decisions.